Hello, guys. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. Three things that I think are in the news right now that are fascinating. I find them interesting. One is the election last night. It's a clean sweep by Democrats, as far as I know. And then Proposition whatever on top of that in California passed. And um, you had the airplane crash in Kentucky. Was that, 2 or 3 days ago now? And I read today that Six Flags America, after 50 years of operation, ceased uh, ceased existence. They ceased operations permanently. And so I have some thoughts on all these things, and I would just say that coincides with was it a month ago, maybe 2 months ago now, that Dollywood permanently closed down. It was in the news. And yeah, I think it's kind of interesting and worth talking about. Um, let's get to the first part, which is the election last night. First thing, I don't think any of that stuff is ever good for the country because communism is never good for the country. So it doesn't matter how much social welfare you want or not. Communism being elected in the way of New York City last night was not good for Republicans, Democrats, or Americans at all. But at the flip side of that, these were just nothing more than Democratic elections, right? They were in New York, California, or not California, excuse me, Minnesota, New York, and New Jersey, and then Virginia. I guess you can call it a flip or whatever, whatever. But my point is, majority of these are in deep, deep Democratic states, right? So can you really learn anything from them? Probably not. But I will say, as a lifelong Republican, one of the things you hear, I think, right now in the media, I'm talking about from a conservative standpoint, I think it's misguided. Uh, you hear YouTubers say it, you hear people in the news on TV say it all the time, that we're in this new era of conservative dominance. They don't quite say it like that, but that's how they're saying it. But I think that's all just mostly BS. I don't think we're in any kind of conservative dominance. I think you're in a unique cycle in which Donald Trump is the president, and in doing so, he's been pretty aggressive. But at the end of the day, he's just a politician, and only the aggressive part is probably something you're not used to seeing, but there's nothing he's doing per se that's illegal. You're just not used to seeing anyone enforce laws and doing things because no one does. They just half-ass do everything all the time. So it seems radical, but it's not actually radical. It's illegal, right? And it's not radical. I don't think you really learned anything from these elections last night. I don't think we're in some type of new conservative era of dominance, as these people on YouTube and TV like to say. And I've told you very honestly, the things that actually concern me about the Republican Party, which also concern Charlie Kirk, is the fact that there's this new sort of shift in the party that's taken place that has become anti Semitic. Now, if you're a Democrat and you listen to this, you're probably like, oh my God, see, I told you, whatever. He just said it himself and he's a Republican. Correct, I said that, but Democrats have already been there. They've already been that party. What I'm trying to get to is a much deeper point, which is what if 10, 15, 20 years, I don't even know if it'll take that long, right? My life experience has told me when things slide, they generally slide pretty fast. What if you get to a future 10, 15, 20 years from now in which both parties, the Democrat and Republican Party, socially agree on everything. They agree on welfare. They treat Israel as the terrorist state. It's not, but that's what the Democrat Party has always portrayed it as. You hear them say apartheid government all the time, things like that. Um, but what if the Republicans eventually get to matching that? My philosophical point on this is, what do you do in the future when both parties are no longer distinguishable of one another? You know, that's where I get kind of concerned about, because at that point, yeah, only by name you have two parties, but there's no difference between them anymore, right? We're not talking about the 1%. We're talking about the majority of issues. There's no longer a wall between the two, and that's where the new Republican shift is. Uh, I'll just say it, they're liberal. They're liberal Republicans, especially in the area of labor and unions and um, so on and so forth. But it's almost like being a chameleon. They've liked um, they've liked the winning and the power that they get from it, and so you just embrace this whole new thing all of a sudden. Don't get me wrong, I do think a lot of these people do legitimately feel this way. I know I do as a Republican, like lifelong here. I want America's manufacturing back in this country. I don't want China with slave laborers making products and then everything we buy, including our own products that we make, say it's an American company over there, we're buying our own products from slave labor in China or anywhere for that matter. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's unethical. I think it's wrong. And again, I don't have much more to say about that. I think you understand that point. But what I'm particularly worried about with the party now is the shift to anti-Semitic behavior, which is already currently found in the Democratic Party. So in that extent, we're matching the party of evil, the Democratic Party. The second part is we're heading there. We're not even there yet. We're heading there, is my point. And then the second point is this whole idea of social welfare. You know, we have the entitlement programs right now in America: Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, with a bunch of other welfare. And it's currently eating up 65% of America's entire national budget. I want to see, personally, things get fixed or things get cut. Completely cut. And it's weird to say that because I myself am an old man now, but it's just the way it is. There's no reason why we should be operating things, financially supporting things that can't support themselves, that aren't sustainable. And that's the problem. I admit they're very complicated issues, and both Democrats and Republicans have no answer to fix it. That's been pretty clear. Okay? Because you could go, for example, to a single payer system, which is real popular in the Democratic Party, um, basically like the entire world has. When I say entire world, the Western world, the only people that have it. But even all those countries are bankrupt, so it doesn't really matter. Just because someone has something you don't doesn't make it okay. It's not working there either. But in this land of fantasy and illusion, everyone wants to always say, "Well, we're we're uh, we're we're getting free health care and free this and free that." Well, you're not. because nothing's free. You're getting paid higher taxes to have those things, and it still fails you. It still isn't enough. It still isn't enough. Those people have essentially waiting lists for the worst possible things like cancer. Come back and see me next year, little Johnny, they might tell you in Britain, because they've hit their quota for the year. Little Johnny might be dead 1 year later. You see what I'm saying? That's how the game's played. Come back next year, and 1 year from now, my cancer's metastasized and I'm dead or close to death. Well, okay. I mean, it sounds all fun and games to people until you actually have the system in place, which is failing everywhere in the world. Yeah, maybe America's health is expensive. Not a maybe, it is, and I get that. But what's the alternative? Put in place systems that already don't work and make things even worse? You know, at least today, if you're an American, you can come up with the money. You're going to get top-notch health care in the country, period. Despite popular belief, the stuff that congressmen get is the same health care you get. They may have great, like, insurance health care wise, like, basically, a lot of money in those health systems. But what I'm saying is the treatment is the exact same. Their chemo, their radiation is the same chemo and radiation you're getting. You just are more poor than they are. But it's the same thing. So what I'm basically, I don't know if you want to call it advocating, is to be a free thinker and either create something that might work or something that's at least new that no one knows if it'll work, or just stop pretending you want to be like Europe where it doesn't work. It doesn't work in Canada. It doesn't work anywhere in the Western world. The whole entire social welfare apparatus has bankrupted the entire Western world everywhere. The only difference is, uniquely American problem, by the way, is a lot of these countries don't overspend their budget in the same way America does. America, we're $2 trillion short, they may say. We got a budget shortfall of $2 trillion. So what do? They throw out bonds out there. It's always bonds, right? And anybody can buy those bonds. So what ends up happening? Oh, America's good for $2 trillion. So China buys a $2 trillion bond plus interest. Okay? And this just happens over and over and over. But it can't happen forever. Despite what popular demand or belief is nowadays, you can't live on a credit card forever, okay? Before it all comes falling down. Period, okay? So we don't need to advocate for things that don't work, is my point. Because nothing is better anywhere in the world than what you already have. You just may struggle to be able to afford it because it's very expensive. But the alternative is you have European systems that already by the thousands, by the way, every year, literally by the thousands. Hey, little Johnny, we've hit our health care quota for the year. I'll see you next year. We'll look at your cancer then. Little Johnny comes back next year and it's already metastasized. That's what happens in all those countries. That's why anyone that has the money out of Canada or Europe always come to America, because that won't happen in America at the current system we have. But we will have that happen in America if we keep moving in those directions. It'll be on a much larger scale because all the European countries combined only are roughly 150 or 200 million people more than America. All those countries combined are roughly maybe 150 the 200 million more people than the entire continent of, well, not even a continent, just America itself. You see what I'm saying? It's definitely way different. Don't be fooled. But anyway, having idiots like Madani Zoran guy elected, shocking. Okay? Spanberger, who talked about how great Charlie Kirk's murder was, shocking. Okay? I don't even go to I don't even walk up to people who I know who are bleeding heart Democrats in my own personal life when they have suffered a loss in their family and say, well, good, they deserve to die. I don't even do that to people I know. It is shocking that people are so fucking mentally unbalanced in their head nowadays that is their response. Let me tell you why I don't do that. It's not Christian. It's literally anti-Christian. The concept, don't talk bad about the dead, is not only just a good concept, but it's literally a Christian concept. You don't talk bad about the dead because they can't defend themselves. Alright? They can't defend themselves. But beyond that, it's just a Christian value to be respectful and have manners and love people. Not piss on them when they're down in the dumps, okay? So I find it absurd, okay? But that's where people are nowadays, right? Is Vladimir Putin's the same way, right? He's a rich version of this, obviously, but oh, we're gonna nuke America if they send X missile to Ukraine, or in the North Korea nowadays. Oh, we're gonna nuke them if they do this or that. See, everyone just talks out their fucking mind. It's hyperbolic. It's not actually going to happen. But everyone just talks out their mind nowadays. It's crazy. Second news item, which I find crazy, was that UPS cargo plane that crashed in Muhammad Ali's airport the other day. I think they said there's 3 people dead, 11 injured, or something like that. I mean, it's just super sad. Super sad. Super shocking. It's hard to understand. Very difficult to understand. And, but before they even leave the ground, one of their engines, it has 3 engines on it. One of the engines are already burning on fire. So you think about that. Maybe just say a prayer or something. That's a tough situation, you know. And then you see the big fireball because they run into the wall at the end of the runway. Yeah, that's another thing I've never understood about anything. Right? Riddle me this for a second. This isn't a political opinion, by the way. This is just asking a general question here. Why in the world? And this happens in every state all across America. Why in the world do airports, as cities grow and they end up going around the airport, why do cities think it's correct or good safety policy to build concrete jungles all around their airports? I've never understood it. For example, had this plane had, say, 300 yards of just grass in front of it, it probably could have just throttled back off the throttle, cut the power to the engine, slammed back down to the ground, and then just hit their brakes and came to a complete stop in the grass. And 3 people probably wouldn't be dead. You never know for sure. But they probably wouldn't be dead today. And 11 other people injured in the fireball probably wouldn't be injured, and possibly still to come, maybe some of them will die. I've never understood this anywhere. The place where you need to have long runways are the places that never actually have them. It's just the end of a runway, maybe a few yards, a big explosion wall, and then behind the explosion wall, highways, houses, 100-foot buildings, It's terrible. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. I've never understood that. I've just never understood it. Okay. Second or third thought on this, last thought actually, news or item is, I read today that Six Flags America ceased all operations permanently after 50 years. And it's just terrible. Dollywood closed down, announced their permanent closing, was it like 2 months ago? Okay? Absolutely terrible. Now, I have no inside knowledge on this. I just do this through based off observation. Okay? I have known for quite some time, I would say close to 10 years at least, that amusement parks weren't what they used to be. And this is even before pandemic. I had already noticed things not what they were. And there's a lot of reasons for this. One, I do believe that theme parks have become way too expensive. But I'll tell you something beyond money that's the real issue. Whether you yourself believe it or not, you are just anti-social today. Your culture, because of this thing called a cell phone, has become anti-social. You literally won't get off your recliner and out of the AC in your house to go do anything anymore. You'd rather just sit inside an AC on your ass and not get out and do things with your family and friends. Right? It's literally the difference between the 80s and 90s when I was a kid. In the 80s and 90s, we'd be outside when it was 100 degrees playing basketball in the park. You know, we'd ride our bikes until the sun went down. We'd take our cane pole, put it on a bicycle, ride down to the Wabash River and fish. We'd play in the parks, climb trees. We were doing what kids do, play. Hell, even my father, back in the 90s, not because he couldn't drive, but even my father would still actively ride his bicycle back then. He passed away now, but 2 years ago actually. But he'd also walk. I mean, sometimes he'd walk, 5 miles just to go to church even on a Sunday, or when a revival would happen. It wasn't uncommon back then, is my point. Today, doing any of these things that I'm saying are uncommon. Kids aren't climbing trees anymore. Now, parents may have the illusion they are, but once again, through observation, you can go anywhere nowadays. You don't see kids climbing trees. We say, well, how do you know all this? Well, I'll tell you how I know. Go to your local park, sit in your car, and just spend 2 or 3 hours there. No one goes to parks anymore. People falsely think this is just a big city problem, but it's not. I live in a town of like under 1,300 people, and there's no one in the parks. So if your reason is because, well, there's just too much crime here in Houston, or too much crime in New York City, no, that's not really got anything to do with it. People won't go and mingle anymore. And it's not a big city issue. It's in every small farm town across America. No one goes to parks. No one goes to parks. Why? Because of a cell phone. It has taught us to be antisocial. Everything we want to do, instead of just doing it, we just go to Google and bring it to us. Instead of taking the family out to eat, we'll just order Uber to bring us our food. We don't have those services in a small farm town, but that's what happens in big cities. You've become antisocial, which isn't the same as saying you're not a nice person. You might, from a Christian standpoint, be a very outstanding human being in that regard. It's not the same as being antisocial, though. You could be antisocial and be a very nice person. People have been taught to stay in their homes through their cell phones. And that's why all these parks, that's why all these hotels, that's why all these amusement parks are closing down who've been in business for 100 years or half a century. It's not because they just got expensive. I admit, they're very expensive. But my point is, if you're an adult or a kid, maybe if you're an old person, but if you're mom and dad and a kid, amusement parks didn't just, like, you didn't just wake up one day and they weren't fun anymore. They're the best fun you'll ever have. Beyond camping and hiking or something, okay? That's why I know most of this is about being an antisocial society in which no one leaves the house anymore. Because amusement parks, you didn't just wake up one day and amusement parks quit being fun. I mean, shit, when I was a kid, when I loosely say this, even when I was a teenager, give you another example. You could go to like Holiday World, Santa Claus Land, Indiana, okay? And back then, it was common for 30 and 40-year-old people be walking around with a wristband all day long. They had season tickets, and they would have their dates with them, and they'd be there all day long, water park, roller coasters, rides, and it was a very popular thing to take your girl there. I'm talking about before you were married and had kids. This was just a very popular thing. I noticed years ago, you almost don't see that at all anymore. Okay? I mean, that's pretty wild. You know, this is why all your movie theaters, by the way, are also going bankrupt, because no one will go to them anymore. It's bad enough that your malls all across America are going bankrupt and closing, but the one thing that a lot of them still have in them are movie theaters, and people won't go to them anymore. There's no good reason for it. You didn't just wake up one day and a movie quit being fun. You became antisocial. Yeah, there is the expense part. It is pretty damn expensive. I mean, I will tell you, here in Aberdeen, South Dakota, by the time I oftentimes buy a drink, large popcorn, large drink, and a ticket, and sometimes I'll get those chocolate almond things that are really good. Sometimes I don't. I'm usually close to $30 just for one ticket. And I remember 2 years ago, before my dad passed away, I remember sometimes he would take the grandkids, not my kids, I don't have no kids, my sister's kids, but I call them the grandkids, and I would go with him. I was always invited, so I would go. My dad, not a very wealthy guy, I'd usually slip him a $50 or $60 bill, because my dad's health was getting pretty bad, and he wasn't even getting out as much as he used to, and I know he was always going to be sticker shocked by the price, so I'd always slip him a 50 or 60. I would never say anything to the grandkids. I would just say, yeah, man, Grandpa took you out for popcorn and a movie, and we had a great time. But I did that because I knew I knew that it was going to be expensive. For the grandkids, it's usually like $150, $200 night out. Not cheap. So I can understand that. But what I don't understand is why we've just come to a point in America where we're just watching our businesses die. Our theaters, our grocery stores, anything and everything, all because we won't leave the house and do anything anymore. Oh, we'll build a brand new weight room at the high school. We'll make vanity projects I call them vanity projects to man, because that's what they are. They're vanity projects. They're not needed, but fuck, we'll waste taxpayer dollars to build them. Shit. And no one will use those facilities either. That's the fucking funny part about it. But get out, be active, smell the fresh air, All your fears and worries, they're in your mind. They're not reality. That's not saying crime doesn't happen. But if you're living in a world where you think every time you step outside the door, someone's going to come up and knife you or gun you, that's not living in reality. I don't know what the statistics on that is, but I mean, it's got to be less than 1%, less than 2%. You're fearing over something that mathematically is 1 in a trillion chance of happening to you. Get out, enjoy the world, enjoy God's planet, and do what you were meant to do. Socialize. Go hang with your family or friends. Go camping. Go hiking. Go help your mom and pop grocery stores and hardware stores across America, because they're not getting any better. They're going out of business too. But when they are gone, don't sit there and bitch about it. Well, I miss when we had True Value or Mertz or the Ellendale grocery store or whatever the flavor of ice cream is, because you're the reason why it went out of business, because you never did any business there. Okay? Don't fucking be one of those people. I mean, if it goes out of business, that's one thing, but at least be the person that actually did business with them. Okay? Don't be the majority of people who just sit there and don't do no business and then bitch when it's all gone. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't be one of those people. So, like I said, a lot of the problems we're seeing today concerning businesses straight across the board is in relation because cell phone addiction has altered human behavior. And there's been enough studies that's came out, plus former tech people that used to work for like Facebook and Google and all these people, Apple including, who intentionally tell you there was a whole department of professional behavioral science guys that was purposely trying to make cell phones and things addictive so that you don't ever put them down. You're always doom scrolling. They're all designed to take your attention away from basically living to basically living, because having this in your face all day long is not living, you know. So what I'm telling you is most of the decline, amusement park decline, and all these businesses is just because you won't get out of your house anymore. Go do something. By you doing something, most of these places won't actually go out of business. Like I said, I've been noticing decline in amusement parks for years, just through observation, not even knowing any of the financials, right? But just through observation, because they're just not packed anymore. So go out, quit being antisocial, and do something. That's my message. 33 minutes in. I never edit. It just is what it is. You're either interested or you're not. Fine. But if you are interested in just random conversation about certain things that happen, or just conversation, look for good conversation, like and subscribe. Oh, I know a while back I made a video too talking about my weight loss journey. I'm actually down right now about 15 pounds. I hadn't made a video on that, but just so you know, I am down about 15 pounds right now. So it's a long, hard slog, if you will, but it's happening slowly but surely. So anyway, enjoy your Wednesday, guys. God bless. Talk to you later. Bye.